Hey everyone, tonight we're drifting into a world that's quieter than a forgotten library, slower than a sleepy village, and filled with more yawns than a long winter's nap. Welcome to Sleepfast, where history unwinds like a gentle lullaby and facts fade into dreams. So, before you settle in too deep, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you truly love nodding off to soothing, endlessly detailed tales from the past. Drop a comment letting me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is there. Now, dim those lights, cozy up under your covers, and let's ease into the night with this serene tale of everyday routines in an old community, where quiet figures handle the day's quiet troubles in a gentle, unhurried way. How much is conveyed in those two short words, the community, and with how many tales of distress and misery, of broken fortune and ruined hopes, too often of unrelieved wretchedness and successful knavery, are they associated? A poor man with small earnings and a large family just manages to live on from hand to mouth and to procure food from day to day. He has barely sufficient to satisfy the present cravings of nature and can take no heed of the future. His taxes are in arrear, quarter day passes by, another quarter day arrives. He can procure no more quarter for himself and is summoned by the community. His goods are distrained, his children are crying with cold and hunger, and the very bed on which his sick wife is lying is dragged from beneath her. What can he do? To whom is he to apply for relief? To private charity? To benevolent individuals? Certainly not. There is his community. There are the community meeting hall, the community infirmary, the community surgeon, the community officers, the community attendant. Excellent institutions and gentle, kind-hearted men. The woman dies. She is buried by the community. The children have no protector. They are taken care of by the community. The man first neglects and afterwards cannot obtain work. He is relieved by the community. And when distress and drunkenness have done their work upon him, he is maintained a harmless, babbling idiot in the community asylum. The community attendant is one of the most, perhaps the most, important member of the local administration. He is not so well off as the overseers, certainly, nor is he so learned as the clerk, nor does he order things quite so much his own way as either of them. But his power is very great, notwithstanding, and the dignity of his office is never impaired by the absence of efforts on his part to maintain it. The attendant of our community is a splendid fellow. It is quite delightful to hear him as he explains the state of the existing poor laws to the deaf old women in the boardroom passage on business nights, and to hear what he said to the senior overseer, and what the senior overseer said to him, and what we, the attendant and the other gentlemen, came to the determination of doing. A miserable-looking woman is called into the boardroom and represents a case of extreme destitution affecting herself. A widow with 6 small children. "Where do you live?" inquires one of the overseers. "I rents a 2-pair-back gentleman at a local address, which has lived there this 15 year, and knows me to be very hard-working and industrious. And when my poor husband was alive, gentleman, has died in the hospital." "Well, well," interrupts the overseer, taking a note of the address. "I'll send the attendant tomorrow morning to ascertain whether your story is correct. And if so, I suppose you must have an order into the house. Attendant, go to this woman's the first thing tomorrow morning, will you?" The attendant bows assent and ushers the woman out. her previous admiration of the bored, who all sit behind great books and with their hats on, fades into nothing before her respect for her lace-trimmed conductor, and her account of what has passed inside increases, if that be possible, the marks of respect shown by the assembled crowd to that solemn functionary. As to taking out a summons, it's quite a hopeless case if the attendant attends it on behalf of the community. He knows all the titles of the local mayor by heart, states the case without a single stammer, and it is even reported that on one occasion he ventured to make a joke, which the mayor's head footman, who happened to be present, afterwards told an intimate friend confidentially was almost equal to one of a certain clerk's. See him again on Sunday in his state coat and cocked hat, with a large-headed staff for show in his left hand, and a small cane for use in his right. How pompously he marshals the children into their places, and how demurely the little urchins look at him askance as he surveys them when they are all seated, with a glare of the eye peculiar to attendants. The overseers being duly installed in their curtained pews, he seats himself on a mahogany bracket, erected expressly for him at the top of the aisle, and divides his attention between his prayer book and the boys. Suddenly, just at the commencement of the communion service, when the whole congregation is hushed into a profound silence, broken only by the voice of the officiating clergyman, a penny is heard to ring on the stone floor of the aisle with astounding clearness. Observe the generalship of the attendant. His involuntary look of horror is instantly changed into one of perfect indifference, as if he were the only person present who had not heard the noise. The artifice succeeds. After putting forth his right leg now and then, as a feeler, the victim who dropped the money ventures to make one or two distinct dives after it, and the attendant, gliding softly round, salutes his little round head when it again appears above the seat, with divers double knocks, administered with the cane before noticed, to the intense delight of 3 young men in an adjacent pew, who cough violently at intervals until the conclusion of the sermon. Such are a few traits of the importance and gravity of a community attendant, a gravity which has never been disturbed in any case that has come under our observation, except when the services of that particularly useful machine, a community fire engine, are required. Then, indeed, all is bustle. 2 little boys run to the attendant as fast as their legs will carry them, and report from their own personal observation that some neighboring chimney is on fire. The engine is hastily got out, and a plentiful supply of boys being obtained and harnessed to it with ropes, away they rattle over the pavement. The attendant running, we do not exaggerate, running at the side, until they arrive at some house, smelling strongly of soot, at the door of which the attendant knocks with considerable gravity for half an hour. No attention being paid to these manual applications, and the turncock having turned on the water, the engine turns off amidst the shouts of the boys. It pulls up once more at the workhouse, and the attendant pulls up the unfortunate householder next day for the amount of his legal reward. We never saw a community engine at a regular fire but once. It came up in gallant style, 3 miles and a half an hour at least. There was a capital supply of water, and it was first on the spot. Bang went the pumps. The people cheered. The attendant perspired profusely, but it was unfortunately discovered, just as they were going to put the fire out, that nobody understood the process by which the engine was filled with water, and that 18 boys and a man had exhausted themselves in pumping for 20 minutes without producing the slightest effect. The personages next in importance to the attendant are the master of the workhouse and the community schoolmaster. The clerk, as everybody knows, is a short, pudgy little man in black with a thick gold watch chain of considerable length, terminating in 2 large seals and a key. He is an attorney and generally in a bustle, at no time more so than when he is hurrying to some community meeting with his gloves crumpled up in one hand and a large red book under the other arm. As to the overseers, we exclude them altogether because all we know of them is that they are usually respectable tradesmen who wear hats with brims inclined to flatness and who occasionally testify in gilt letters on a blue ground in some conspicuous part of the church to the important fact of a gallery having been enlarged and beautified, or an organ rebuilt. The master of the workhouse is not in our community, nor is he usually in any other. One of that class of men, the better part of whose existence has passed away, and who drag out the remainder in some inferior situation with just enough thought of the past to feel degraded by and discontented with the present. We are unable to guess precisely to our own satisfaction what station the man can have occupied before. We should think he had been an inferior sort of attorney's clerk, or else the master of a national school. Whatever he was, it is clear his present position is a change for the better. His income is small, certainly, as the rusty black coat and threadbare velvet collar demonstrate. But then he lives free of house rent, has a limited allowance of coals and candles, and an almost unlimited allowance of authority in his petty kingdom. He is a tall, thin, bony man, always wears shoes and black cotton stockings with his surtout, and eyes you as you pass his parlor window as if he wished you were a pauper, just to give you a specimen of his power. He is an admirable specimen of a small tyrant, morose, brutish, and ill-tempered, bullying to his inferiors, cringing to his superiors, and jealous of the influence and authority of the attendant. Our schoolmaster is just the very reverse of this amiable official. He has been one of those men one occasionally hears of, on whom misfortune seems to have set her mark. Nothing he ever did, or was concerned in, appears to have prospered. A rich old relation who had brought him up and openly announced his intention of providing for him, left him £10,000 in his will and revoked the bequest in a codicil. Thus, unexpectedly reduced to the necessity of providing for himself, he procured a situation in a public office. The young clerks below him died off as if there were a plague among them. But the old fellows over his head, for the reversion of whose places he was anxiously waiting, lived on and on as if they were immortal. He speculated and lost. He speculated again and won, but never got his money. His talents were great, his disposition easy, generous, and liberal. His friends profited by the one and abused the other. Loss succeeded loss. Misfortune crowded on misfortune. Each successive day brought him nearer the verge of hopeless penury, and the quondam friends who had been warmest in their professions grew strangely cold and indifferent. He had children whom he loved, and a wife on whom he doted. The former turned their backs on him. The latter died broken-hearted. He went with the stream. It had ever been his failing, and he had not courage sufficient to bear up against so many shocks. He had never cared for himself, and the only being who had cared for him in his poverty and distress, was spared to him no longer. It was at this period that he applied for community relief. Some kind-hearted man who had known him in happier times chanced to be overseer that year, and through his interest, he was appointed to his present situation. He is an old man now. Of the many who once crowded round him in all the hollow friendship of boon companionship, some have died, some have fallen like himself, some have prospered. All have forgotten him. Time and misfortune have mercifully been permitted to impair his memory, and use has habituated him to his present condition. Meek, uncomplaining, and zealous in the discharge of his duties, he has been allowed to hold his situation long beyond the usual period, and he will no doubt continue to hold it until infirmity renders him incapable or death releases him. As the grey-headed old man feebly paces up and down the sunny side of the little courtyard between school hours, it would be difficult indeed for the most intimate of his former friends to recognize their once gay and happy associate in the person of the pauper schoolmaster.